Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Fincham's Fireside Follow-Alongs, and today we are going to be continuing on with Pedro's journal. We're going to be starting on page 80 today. I know that we finished page 80 last time, but I wanted to start here just so we can recap a little bit. But before we recap, here are the questions for today. What is Pedro's attitude toward Columbus? How do you know? So how does he feel about Columbus, and how do you know that? And the second one, Christopher Columbus has a reputation in the history books. There is even a holiday dedicated to him. From what you read in Pedro's journal so far, what are your personal feelings about Christopher Columbus? So after we read this, I want to know how you guys feel about him personally. What is your opinion of Christopher Columbus? And the third one, on page 84 and 85, what evidence shows that Pedro's attitude toward the native people is different than Columbus's? So Columbus feels a certain way about the natives, and so does Pedro. How are they different? And those are going to be the questions for today. Before we jump into page 81, I want to do a little bit of a recap. Captain Columbus and his crew are looking for another way to get to India. They land in North America, but they think that they are in India, which is why Christopher Columbus is calling them the Indians, right? Christopher Columbus notices something in one of their noses, some gold. We learned earlier in Explorers, Triumphs, and Troubles, that one of the reasons why people explore is to get gold and riches. Christopher Columbus is no exception. He notices gold, and if there's enough to put it in their nose, maybe there's enough to that's worth getting, you know. Christopher Columbus and his men notice that the natives are extremely friendly. They're waving, they're swimming out to them, they're offering them gifts. They're a nice group of people. But it seems like Christopher Columbus and his men have something else in mind than just being friendly back. See how docile they are? That they will be easy. We will take 6 back with us to Spain. So he's basically planning to kidnap some of them and bring them back to Spain. If you were native people and you had some visitors who you didn't know, and they had different cultures, didn't speak the same language, and they were trying to kidnap some people from your tribe or your family, how would you respond? Would you still be friendly? Probably not. So without further ado, we are going to continue on with Pedro's journal, starting on page 81. We start off with a picture of the ship and Christopher Columbus here. As you can see, the natives are swimming and rowing. This is known as a dugout, but they're rowing and swimming out to the boat to be friendly with them, maybe to give them gifts, to just kind of meet these people. You know, they're curious. They've never seen anybody like this before. Never seen people with these kind of cultures. So they are fascinated with each other. And we're going to go on to page 82. Starting at the top. The 6 native men Columbus had taken aboard are not very happy. One by one they are escaping, which I cannot help but say I am happy for. One jumped overboard and swam away, and another jumped overboard when a dugout came up alongside us in the darkness. Some of the crew seized another man coming alongside in the dugout and forced him on board. Columbus tried to convince him of our good intentions through sign language and broken words and more gifts of glass beads and junk, and the men rowed back to some people on the shore. They stood talking to each other and pointing at our ship. Columbus smiled and was convinced they know we are from God. Me, I am not so sure they will believe it for much longer. So here is a picture of a native in a dugout. Some of the men escape. They jump overboard. They try to swim away. They get back to the shore. And now the natives are in a group talking about the boat, pointing at the ship, and having a conversation about Columbus and the men on shore. So I think Pedro right here, I am not so sure they will believe it for much longer. Pedro's kind of saying here that, hey, I think sooner rather than later, they are going to figure out that we are not as friendly as we are trying to be. And once they figure out that we're not friendly, what's going to happen? I don't know. So we're going to go on to page 83. Here is another image on page 83. This is the image of a native jumping from the ship into the water, trying to escape Christopher Columbus and his men. They do not want to be taken back to a place they have never been to and they've never heard about, away from their families, so it makes sense that they would try to escape, right? Kind of a cool picture. There's good artwork in this book. That's one of the things I like about it. All right, and we are going to go to page 84. All right, we have another journal entry.
December 3rd.
December 3rd. We are anchored in a quiet harbor in scattered showers. It has been raining for days without the slightest breeze or gust. Many of the men went ashore to wash their clothes and themselves in the river. 2 men wandered into the jungle and returned to tell us they had come upon a village where, hanging from a post, was a basket with a man's head in it. I don't think I will go looking in any baskets I find. So, there's no breeze or gusts of wind. That is a problem if you need wind to travel with your boat, right? They need wind to get them where they're, if they want to leave, they need wind to help them, right? And right now there's no wind. And they find a village with a post and a basket and a man's head in it. What could that mean? Is that a warning? I don't know. I don't know what that means, but it's probably nothing good, right? So second paragraph here on 84. One day, I went ashore with Diego, Columbus, and a native who was working as an interpreter for us. The captain gave Diego a bag of brass rings, glass beads, and bells, and told him to see what trading he could do. Diego agreed, but I can tell he does not like to do this. A group of natives joined us, but these were not so friendly, and they had little to trade. Their eyes were distrustful, and their bodies were painted red, with bundles of feathers and darts hanging from them. When we finished our meager trade, they gathered at the stern of our small boat in the river, and one began making a speech we could not understand. The others began to shout in response. Columbus stood by looking pompous and arrogant as he waited, but the interpreter with us turned pale and began to shake. He told the captain to go back to the Santa Maria at once, that they were planning to kill us. So now the head in the basket makes a little more sense, right? If you notice, and it says here in the book that they have paint, that's what's known as war paint. A lot of tribes, even to this day, they put paint on their bodies to kind of intimidate or scare their enemies. I know that our military does it. They use war paint, but that's, I think, mostly for camouflage, so they can blend in with their surroundings. Lots of browns and greens and blacks on their face, so that way they can hide in the forest, or even white paint, so they can hide in snowy areas. We still use it to this day. But in here it says, a native who was working as an interpreter for us. An interpreter is just somebody who translates. So making sure that the natives and Christopher Columbus's men can communicate with each other. So the interpreter would know both languages. And the interpreter was listening to these men speak, right? These men covered in war paint who are speaking and shouting. The interpreter turned pale and began to shake, and told the captain to go back to the Santa Maria at once, that they were planning to kill us. So it sounds like the natives have caught on to the fact that these men who showed up on their shores and were friendly and wanted to trade, have other things in mind, right? They wanted to kidnap some of them, and now they're like, look, if you guys don't leave, we're going to kill you. How are they going to react? Let's go to page 85. I hopped right in the boat to go back, but Diego didn't move, and Columbus laughed. He interrupted the village speechmaker and drew his sword from his scabbard. With a gentle smile on his face, he showed him the steel glistening in the sun, sliced clear through a leather strap the speechmaker bore around his neck, and the man's beads tumbled into the sand. Next, the captain had one of his men demonstrate his crossbow. At this, the crowd of natives turned and ran into the trees. Our interpreter was still not comforted. He jumped into the boat beside me and, trembling, beckoned us to get aboard and get back to the ship quickly. The captain was slow about it. He talked of how he admired the workmanship of these natives, but how cowardly they were. They are so timid. 10 of our men could frighten away thousands of them. I said nothing. The captain expects nothing of me. I just watched silent, Diego's back straining and bulging in rhythm as he helped us row back to the Santa Maria. So, it sounds like Christopher Columbus isn't scared, right? He's laughing. He's kind of mocking them, calling them cowardly. Notice these men here with the war paint. They have bow and arrows. They have spears. They're ready to defend themselves. And what does Columbus do? He has somebody demonstrate his crossbow, and he pulls out his steel sword and slices the strap off of the speechmaker. So he's kind of showing them, like, look at our technology. Look at the weapons that we have. You guys want to go to war with us? I don't think so, right? And he makes the natives run back into the woods. So pressures are starting to build. Tensions are getting high. I wonder what's going to happen next. But we're going to have to stop there for today. And I'm going to review the questions with you one more time before I sign off. The first question, what is Pedro's attitude toward Columbus? How do you know? The second question, Christopher Columbus has a reputation in the history books. There is even a holiday dedicated to him. From what you read in Pedro's journal so far, what are your personal feelings about Christopher Columbus? And the last one. On page 84 through 85, what evidence shows that Pedro's attitude toward native people is different than Columbus's? So, those are the questions for today. As always, these are going to be on the ELA questions and tasks sheet of the newsletter. And you guys feel free to post your answers and your opinions on Seesaw or email them to me. You can also leave some comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. How are you guys liking the book so far? What do you think is going to happen next? And that is it for today. I will see you guys next time.